Welcome back to Inside the Line Sunday edition of the show. I brought in Jake also to talk about one college football game we found interesting, and then me and Steven will get into the Week 9 look ahead. So other than bringing you in to rub it in your face that your Gators just got annihilated by Georgia, we have one game that we want to talk about, Jake. Kansas State going to Texas, and a lot of shopping opportunity for this line.
Yeah, first I want to talk about that game yesterday. While it was rough that the Gators lost, we hit on the Georgia team total over, which made me happy. We hit on the Trevor Etienne rushing yard over, and I personally hit on Oscar Delp receiving yards over 26.5 yards. So while it was still rough, I came out positive in my wallet at least.
Yeah, 7-1 on your player props, I may add. Also, I should probably address. I'll address them in the airport also, so apologies for the technical issues.
Oh, good. So 7-1 player props. Like Steven said, we had our first down week last week, and so that's the time you hop on right after a down week. But looking at the board this week, there weren't a ton of games that stuck out, but the Kansas State-Texas game did because it's a big game. There's a big range in lines from Texas -5 to -6.5. Which I thought was immediately interesting because Quinn Ewers is out and Blake Murphy is their starter. And we have this game as even pretty much with a slight lean towards Kansas State. And we like Kansas State because we like them to hold Texas under Vegas's projection of 28.5 points. We have Texas just scoring around 25, 26 points in the model. And what's interesting here is going through the database, we like Kansas State because we like their performance on the road over the last couple of seasons, and I think Vegas is overstating Texas's performance, or they're understating Kansas State's road performance, and they're overstating Texas's home performance because Kansas State is just 1-2 ATS on the road this year, but they were 4-1 on the road ATS last year, 5-1 straight up. They're usually a good road team. They don't turn the ball over a ton, so we like them to win the turnover margin here. And then Malik Murphy, he didn't look great against BYU. He's not a great defense, and his yards per attempt, his yards per completion, and his completion percentage were all down compared to Quinn Ewers. So that's dinging them a bit as well.
Yeah, and as behind the code, when we're looking at team defenses, we look at how they hold teams based versus what those teams were averaging heading in. So with Kansas State playing Houston has a statistically good offense. So off the top of my head, say Houston completes 65% of their completion percentages. And I don't know what they did against Kansas State, but it had to be pretty low. So that one game can really take a team's defense, take them to the next level after just 1 week.
Yeah, Houston averages like almost 300 pass yards. They had 95 pass yards against Kansas State, which is pretty unbelievable.
So a question for the public, I guess. Do you think people come in betting Texas just because people like to bet on Texas football and don't know a lot about Kansas State? Like, do you think this is something you can wait on and hope that the spread can get past 6.5?
I think, if anything, it's probably going to move towards Kansas State. Just my gut feeling is it moves towards Kansas State. Just all these college football fans know the big name in Quinn Ewers, and they're going to see that he's out. They're going to realize he's out. And I think some of the money is going to go on Kansas State. And I'm assuming the smart money is going to go on Kansas State because smart money usually goes where a model goes.
So I just checked the database from last week, and this line actually was in. The early line was Texas -9. So this already is a pretty big adjustment. And our sim line was actually only Texas -1. So, yeah, we both moved. But we always had value for Kansas State because we love Kansas State for some reason.
Even though Texas beat BYU, the underlying numbers in that game weren't that impressive compared to the numbers in the Houston-Kansas State game. That was more impressive towards Kansas State.
All right, Jake, you got to go. So the Ravens game's about to start up again. So that's enough about Kansas State, Texas.
Yeah, good stuff there, though. That's a good act now if you want to get that 6.5.
Go back to crying.
Yeah. Go mourn your loss. Okay, we're moving on.
He did look sad, didn't he? He looked a little down.
I'd be a little sad. All right, let's move over to the NFL. Looking into Week 9, the Steelers going to Tennessee. Will Levis looking all right. He's looking all right. So you think the steam will probably start to go towards them?
Yeah, much like our Sportsline Model team got a big boost after meeting Mackenzie Brooks. Apparently, Will Levis did as well, right? Since you met the man, he was awesome actually. So and it looked like Kenny Pickett, didn't return to the game. Mitch Trubisky might be starting for Pittsburgh, so I could see. So Pittsburgh look ahead was -3, It was actually -4 before the game started, and then I would assume it goes back to -3 or even -1.5 on Pittsburgh as Tennessee, assuming Tennessee doesn't trade Derrick Henry. But I think this team will be on Titans, surprisingly.
Yeah, so I guess we'll be seeing a lot of updates through the week as trades start to happen. So it'll be a really busy week for our show and important to tune in every day. Let's move to the team on the losing side of that matchup. The Falcons are now hosting the Vikings. Poor Kirk Cousins. We have news of a torn AC or Achilles there.
Yeah.
Achilles?
Yeah. I mean, I'd written a major steam on Minnesota when it looked like he was fine, but that looks like he's done. So I assume with Taylor Heineke coming in, sparking Atlanta, they didn't win, but that over hit really easily, McKenzie, the one that we liked for Atlanta, Tennessee. But with I assume the number is going to go to Atlanta 3.5, 4. Could depend on who's starting quarterback for Minnesota. They have a rookie who is not ready to start. So we'll see what they do.
Let's move to two teams that literally could only be hoping for things to get better in their situation. The Rams going to Green Bay. Both offenses, as you said, looking terrible. So you think it would be a good time to get this and get the under?
Yeah, I think this team will be on the under because people realize the Packers do not score in the first half. They almost act like it's not allowed. Like they're in a Rocky movie or something like that. They have to make the drama to try to come back. The Rams, even though they got rolled early, but they actually had some good moments. And for a little while, they cut it to 16. And they were moving the ball before they removed Stafford, so he didn't take any more unnecessary hits. And again, the things that Dallas did against the Rams, Green Bay probably won't be able to, which is put up points. So I think the steam will actually go to the Rams, if anything, despite losing by a lot to Dallas.
Does the model have any value on this spread? I know things get tight this late in the season.
It hasn't updated yet, and I think technically it had Green Bay slightly, and I don't want to report that because no way I'm going to allow that to go out there to the public.
All right. Yeah, that'll be tweaked. Let's go to CJ Stroud just took a loss to Bryce Young. They now lay 2.5 hosting Baker Mayfield. You think this could also be a low-scoring game?
Yeah, I don't think the line's going to move much. If Houston had won and covered, then maybe they get to -3, but they didn't. But the Houston defense was good, and Tampa Bay's defense is good. Tampa Bay's offense, neither team can run it particularly well. I could see the steam on the under in this game, even though it's only 39.5 right now anyway.
Yeah, let's move to my Eagles, who had an interesting game. Ended up the way we needed it to, so nonetheless, that's all that matters. But they host the Cowboys now, laying the 3-point home field advantage. Do you think people will start to like Dallas? Do you like Dallas in this situation?
I think if the spread moves, I think it will go to Dallas by 0.5 point, which is a critical 0.5 point. So obviously, if you like the Cowboys, you probably want to get it at +3. It's not going to go to +3.5. But I think there might be steam on the over. Philadelphia's defense looks vulnerable. Washington scored a lot of points on them twice. There's sometimes familiarity among opponents and division opponents results in lower scoring. It does in the AFC North, my division, but I think the NFC East might be the other way around. So there could be some steam on the over, if anything. Assuming, and the early weather forecast doesn't call for anything bad in Philadelphia next Sunday.
We'll move to a game that will probably have some big narratives of a young quarterback going to play Bill Belichick. Do you think the steam will start to be on the Patriots for that?
Well, if based on today, Washington playing well against Philly again. Of course, the last time Washington played well against Philly, they laid an egg
just figures it out.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about the Eagles that Washington that scares them. There's nothing very intimidating about them.
Yeah, and Mac Jones had that bad interception to Jalen Ramsey today. So ordinarily, I would say there would be steam, even though Washington lost. But given the narrative that Bill Belichick, Sam Howell isn't a rookie, but he's still, game-wise is like a rookie, and usually don't bet on a inexperienced quarterback on the road in New England.
Let's go to a game, or we'll start to go to the games that still have some teams playing. So Cincinnati is still playing. Right now they are up 17-10 against the Niners in the third. Do you think this steam changes if Cincinnati pulls off this win?
Yeah, I think it already will. They should have scored another touchdown. They fumbled deep in the red zone, Cincinnati. So Burrow, when I checked, he was 16 for 18 at one point, and with his two touchdowns. So And then we all had in the playoffs last year when Cincinnati demolished Buffalo so I think that this line's definitely going to flip to Buffalo. This was enough. This is the third data point. This is looking like Cincinnati's third win in a row, and Burrow having 2 out of 3 of his last 3 games being really good. He looks healthy coming off his off the bye. So I'd be shocked if Cincinnati wasn't a 2.5 point favorite.
Okay, yeah. So definitely something you'd want to act on if you see this line come out and you see them anything less than the 2.5 point favorite. Okay, good to know. We'll move to the Dolphins are at Kansas City. They will be playing in Germany. The Chiefs are trailing the Broncos right now, 14-9 in the third.
Yeah.
Miami looked good, but where do you think this goes?
If this was a U.S. game, I think this team would be on the over. But it's in Germany. Last year's Germany game was a Seattle Tampa Bay game, was like 21-16. I don't know what the weather is going to be in Germany. I know there's questions about the turf being not suitable for football, but then Derek was telling me that they changed the turf this year. I don't know what that means. I'm curious to see if either team will look to travel early, because the teams that had success in London were Jacksonville against Buffalo when they were there for 2 weeks in a row and well adjusted. Baltimore left on a Monday, landed there early Tuesday London time and got well adjusted. And those are the teams that had success. So I'm wondering, I'm looking at the reports of if one of these teams arrives later than the other, then maybe the team that arrived there first might have an edge. And I wouldn't imagine this team would go that direction.
Yeah, definitely.
More adjusted to the time. I
agree. Let's move to Seattle, going to your Baltimore Ravens. Ravens laying 4.5 in the look ahead. Do you think this holds here?
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's playing a little sloppy right now, still up. But if Baltimore ends up holding on to if they end up winning by 10, and Seattle, after a quick start, and they were up 17-7, now it's tied versus Cleveland. If Seattle looks like it, struggles, even if they end up winning, I think this team will go to Baltimore because the extra narrative of Lamar Jackson not losing to NFC teams, West Coast teams traveling across the country for an early Sunday game, those will all gather. And at 4.5 is a weird little number. So that's easily could go to Baltimore 5.5, unless Arizona comes back to win this game. But even then, I could imagine if it's a quirky upset, that's going to it'll be chalked up to Baltimore looking ahead and just like, it won't necessarily be because of the quality of the team.
All right, let's go to the other half of that matchup. The Cardinals will then be in Cleveland. Cleveland, 8.5 point favorites in the look ahead. Seems like a pretty big number. Does the model have any value here, or do you think this goes anywhere?
Initially, with Deshaun Watson, assuming he's not back, the line did already move to 7.5. A lot depends on if Arizona stays within a touchdown of Baltimore. Let's just say Baltimore ends up winning 21-14. Arizona's doing some really creative things on defense. They're doing these things against us, like dropping 8 men back against Baltimore, which is something you never used to think that used to put 8 men in the box to stop Lamar's running. Now they're dropping back 8. They're doing these things where they're not having any down linemen on defense. And so, and then they took the first drive against Baltimore and scored a touchdown, which Baltimore hadn't allowed all year. Cleveland, again, their defense looked subpar for the first quarter, but has really buckled down against Seattle now. So at this point, I would say that I think the steam will still go to Arizona. Josh Dobbs, if he's the quarterback, I assume Kyler Murray won't be ready yet. But that'll be a big mover as well. If Kyler is activated, then I think it could settle in at 7.
Yeah, so a few plays, again, as the season gets, as we get deeper into the season, our lines and our spreads start to align pretty well with the odds makers. So we don't see as much value, but makes these opportunities to act now just as important. So anything specific act now situations that you think are really worth acting on right now? I know if you like Tennessee, getting them at the +3 is probably the best thing you can do right now. Same for Dallas backers as well.
Yeah, I think those two, because the key number of the field goal.
Yeah. All right.
I know Will Levis.
Yeah. Apparently he's that guy. Good for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have plenty of information this week with the trades showing you what will impact certain teams, overreactions, underreactions. That will be the beauty of the show being all the way through Friday. And it sounds like the Ravens are back on. So
No,
I'm going to let
Baltimore should have
Steven
recovered.
answer.
We should have recovered a fumble. We didn't get it. But-
Okay. Well, I'll go let you emotionally cope about that.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow,
mess.
Monday at 1:00. Yes. All
All
right.
right.
Good
Have
night,
a safe
guys.
flight. All right.